My parents didn't just leave me at the hospital, they calculated me. At 19, I was discharged with $0 and a dead phone. They thought that was the end. But they didn't realize that was the day they lost control of my story. My name is Amber. I built an empire from the threads they threw away. And today, I'm going to show you what happened when they finally tried to come back. If you've ever been told you're disposable, watch this. You are not alone. Your family signed the discharge papers, she said softly. They said they'll be back. She paused, then lowered her voice. They didn't say when. That was the moment my life cracked open. I was 19, sitting on the edge of a hospital bed that wasn't even mine anymore, wearing a thin gown that barely covered my legs. My phone was dead. My backpack was under the chair with everything I owned jammed inside it, like my life had been folded in half. I'd been admitted 3 days earlier after collapsing at work. Dizzy, blurry vision, chest pain that scared the hell out of my manager, enough to call an ambulance. Turns out, stress can wreck you faster than sickness ever could. I kept telling myself my parents would show up. They always showed up. Late, annoyed, lecturing, but still there. This time felt different. They visited once. Just once. My mom stood at the foot of the bed, arms crossed, eyes scanning the room like she was calculating costs instead of checking if I was alive. My dad barely said a word. My brother didn't come at all. You need to be more responsible, Amber. You can't just fall apart like this. Do you know how much this is going to cost? I remember staring at the heart monitor blinking beside me, thinking, that thing is literally tracking whether I'm alive, and she's worried about a bill. They left after 15 minutes. I thought they were going to grab food. They never came back. The second day, the nurses stopped asking when my family was coming. By the third day, the social worker showed up. That's never a good sign. She sat across from me with a gentle smile that felt rehearsed. Amber, right? I nodded. We tried contacting the numbers listed on your intake form. No response. My chest tightened. They're probably busy. She didn't argue. She just slid a paper across the tray table. Your insurance coverage ends today. There it was, the real reason. They didn't forget me. They calculated me. I asked for my clothes back, asked to be discharged. I signed papers I barely understood just to get out of that room before someone officially decided I was nobody's problem. When the automatic doors slid open and spit me out onto the sidewalk, the air felt heavier than inside the hospital. No ride, no calls, no texts. Just a voicemail. My mom's voice, clipped and irritated. We can't keep paying for this, Amber. You're an adult. Figure it out. Figure it out. That phrase would haunt me for years. I sat on the curb for a long time. I watched families walk in together. I watched couples argue quietly. I watched a dad carry his sleeping kid on his shoulder like the weight was nothing. I wondered what it felt like to be wanted in a crisis. My phone finally charged enough to turn on using a wall outlet near the entrance. Still nothing. No missed calls, no panic. That was when it hit me. They weren't coming. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. And something inside me, something fragile and exhausted, just snapped. I could beg, I could cry, I could show up at home and pretend this was normal, or I could accept the truth they just handed me and do the one thing they never expected. I could survive without them. I pulled up maps and searched for the nearest shelter. The closest one was full. The next one had a waiting list. The cheapest motel nearby wanted cash I didn't have. So I walked. 3 miles. In hospital socks. By the time I found a bus station, my feet were blistered and my hands were shaking. But I'd made a decision. I wasn't going home. If they could walk away from me in a hospital, I could walk away from the version of myself that kept waiting for them. I pulled up a one-way ticket to the city, not back to them. The city didn't welcome me. It didn't care, which honestly felt fair. I found a cheap room listed online. No lease, no questions, just a mattress, a lock, and a rule. Pay weekly. That first night, I lay awake listening to sirens and strangers arguing through thin walls. I pressed my hand against my chest, counting my breaths, making sure my heart didn't do anything stupid again. I promised myself one thing. No matter how bad it got, I wouldn't call them. The next morning, I walked until my legs burned. Help wanted signs, coffee shops, retail stores, anywhere that might not care about my resume or the fact that I didn't have a safety net. That's when I saw it. A small cafe wedged between a pharmacy and a nail salon. Handwritten sign in the window. Part-time barista, no experience needed. I stood there staring at it like it might disappear. Then I walked in. The smell of coffee hit me first. Warm, familiar, almost comforting. A woman behind the counter looked up. Tired eyes, kind smile. "What can I get you?" she asked. "A job," I said before I could overthink it. She studied me. My wrinkled clothes, my hospital bracelet I'd forgotten to cut off. "I'm Sarah," she said, finally. "You okay?" No one had asked me that in days. And that was enough to break me. I didn't tell her everything, just enough. Hospital, no ride, no place to land. She sighed, wiped her hands on her apron, and nodded towards the espresso machine. "Can you start today?" I nodded so fast I almost cried. That shift was chaos. Burnt milk, wrong odors, hands shaking so bad I dropped a cup. But nobody yelled. Sarah corrected me, showed me again, didn't treat me like a problem that needed fixing. At the end of the night, she handed me cash. "You earned it," she said. I stared at the money like it was proof I still existed. That night, back in my tiny room, I opened my phone and typed a note. Day 1 without them. I'm still standing. I didn't know it yet, but that hospital bed wasn't the end of my story. It was the place they lost control of it. And that loss, that was going to cost them everything. They thought leaving me there would teach me a lesson. They had no idea the lesson I learned was how to live without them. Survival doesn't look heroic when you're inside it. It looks like waking up before your alarm because your body is scared you'll miss work. It looks like counting quarters at a laundromat and pretending you meant to wear the same hoodie 3 days in a row. The coffee shop became my lifeline. Not because it was glamorous, not because it paid well, but because it gave me structure when everything else had fallen apart. Same door, same bell, same smell of burnt espresso and cinnamon syrup. Every day I walked in, I reminded myself, you're not abandoned here, you're needed. Sarah trained me slowly. She didn't rush, she didn't sigh when I messed up, she just corrected me and moved on, like mistakes weren't character flaws. That alone
At home,
felt
mistakes
revolutionary.
were evidence, proof that I was irresponsible, dramatic, too much. Here, mistakes were just part of learning. One night during a slow shift, Sarah leaned against the counter and asked, "You hear from your family yet?" I shook my head. She nodded like she already knew the answer. Sometimes silence is an answer. That sentence stuck with me longer than anything else she ever said. The panic attacks came quietly, not the dramatic kind you see in movies, the sneaky ones. I'd be wiping down tables and suddenly feel like the room was tilting. My chest would tighten, my fingers would go numb. My brain would whisper, "You're about to disappear." I learned how to ride them out in the bathroom, cold water on my wrists, counting tiles on the wall, breathing slow enough to convince my heart not to betray me. I never told my parents, not because I was strong, because they weren't safe. Weeks passed, then months, No calls, no apologies, no, "Are you alive?" At first, I waited, then I stopped expecting. That shift hurt more than anything else she ever said. Because hope is heavier than grief. I picked up extra shifts, took doubles whenever someone called out. I learned how to close, how to open, how to calm angry customers and smile through insults. I watched Sarah run the place like someone who cared without controlling. She trusted me with the register, then the schedule, then the keys. One night, while we were closing, she asked, "What do you want long-term?" The question caught me off guard. I'd been thinking in days, in shifts, in rent cycles. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I just want control over my own life." She smiled. "That's a good start." On my days off, I wandered. Thrift stores, side streets, anywhere quiet. I didn't have money to buy things, but I liked touching fabric, feeling weight, imagining what something could become instead of what it was. One afternoon, I bought a jacket for $4 because it reminded me of something I couldn't name. Too big, torn lining, ugly buttons. That night, sitting on my bed, I fixed it. Not perfectly, not professionally, but intentionally. Cut the sleeves, swapped buttons, patched the lining with fabric from an old shirt. When I put it on, it didn't look expensive. It looked mine. And something clicked. I started doing it more. One piece at a time, late at night, needle and thread, no YouTube tutorials, just instinct. Fixing things felt like control, like reclaiming something broken and deciding it was still worth effort. I didn't realize it then, but I wasn't just altering clothes. I was rewriting myself. One evening, I wore one of my altered jackets to work. A customer complimented it, then another. Then someone asked where I bought it. "I made it," I said, half joking. They looked surprised. "You should sell these." I laughed it off. But the idea stayed. Sarah noticed. She always noticed. "You have a gift," she said one night, holding one of my jackets. "You don't just fix things, you give them personality." I shrugged. "It's just a hobby." She raised an eyebrow. "So is coffee once." We hung 3 pieces near the register. No website, no brand, just a handwritten sign. They sold in one afternoon. I stood there frozen, watching someone walk out wearing something I'd made with shaking hands and borrowed thread. That night, I cried. Not because I was sad, because for the first time since the hospital, something good had happened that wasn't attached to survival. It was growth. I started saving everything. Every extra dollar, every tip. I moved out of the rented room into a studio so small I could touch both walls at once. But it was quiet, safe, mine. I bought a second-hand sewing machine. It rattled like it might fall apart, but it worked. Unlike my family, it showed up every time I needed it. Still, there were nights where I wondered if they ever thought about me, if my mom ever stood in a grocery store line and felt guilt hit her out of nowhere, if my dad ever checked his phone expecting a call that never came, if my brother ever felt proud of himself for teaching me a lesson. Those thoughts used to hurt. Then they stopped mattering, because I was building something that didn't require their acknowledgement to exist. One night, I recorded a video. Just me, sitting on the floor. "Day 187, I said quietly. "They still haven't called. I paid my rent. I sold another jacket. I'm tired, but I'm not broken." I didn't post it. I saved it. Proof. What scared me most wasn't failing, it was succeeding. Because I knew something deep in my bones. If I ever became something they could benefit from, they would reappear. Not with apologies, with needs. And when that day came, I had to be strong enough to not hand myself back to people who proved they didn't know how to hold me. By the end of that year, the coffee shop rack was always full. Customers asked for custom pieces. I made a name for myself without meaning to. And somewhere between steaming milk and sewing seams, I stopped being the girl they left in a hospital bed. I became someone they wouldn't recognize, which is exactly why they would come looking. I didn't know it yet, but the moment my work started gaining attention outside that coffee shop was the moment my past started walking back toward me. The message came on a Tuesday. Not a call, not an apology, just a text. "Hey, it's Mom. We heard you're doing well." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. My stomach dropped in a way that felt familiar, old, like muscle memory. I stared at the screen longer than I should have, not because I missed her, because I recognized the timing. I had just hit my first real milestone. A local boutique reposted my jacket on their page, tagged me, called my work raw, original, authentic. Orders followed. Not floods, but enough to change the way my bank account breathed. Enough to be noticed. That's how it always happens. People don't look for you when you're drowning. They look for you when you're finally dry. I didn't respond. Not that day. I went to work like normal, made drinks, sewed late into the night, played music too loud to think. But the silence felt different this time. Not empty, pressured. The next message came 2 days later. "We were worried about you. Your aunt saw your work online. We're proud." Proud. The word felt counterfeit in her mouth. Pride without accountability is just decoration. That night, I opened the old video. Day 187. I watched myself sitting on the floor, eyes hollow, voice shaking but steady enough to survive. "I'm tired," past me said, "but I'm not broken." I closed the video and finally texted back, "I'm alive, I'm busy." That was it. They didn't like that. The calls started the next morning. Missed calls at first, then voicemails. My dad's voice sounded exactly the same, confident, calm, like nothing had ever happened. "Let's talk," he said, "like adults." Like adults. As if adults abandon their daughter in a hospital and call it discipline. They showed up a week later, unannounced. I was locking up my studio when I heard my name. I turned. There they were. My parents. My brother. Standing together like a united front. Like time hadn't moved. Like I hadn't bled my way into a life they didn't build. My mom smiled first. That soft, practiced smile she used when she wanted something. "You look different," she said. I nodded. "So do you." That wasn't true. They looked exactly the same, which somehow made it worse. They invited themselves in, sat on chairs they didn't earn. My brother scanned the room like he was inspecting property. "This is nice," he said. "Didn't think you had it in you." I felt the old anger rise, but it didn't explode. It settled, heavy, controlled. My dad got straight to the point. "We're having some financial strain," he said, folding his hands. "Temporary." Of course, there it was. No apology, no acknowledgement, just need. My mom reached across the table and touched my hand. I pulled it back. She flinched like she'd been offended. "We're family," she said softly. "We should support each other." I laughed. It slipped out before I could stop it. Not loud, not cruel, just honest. "Do you remember the hospital?" I asked. The room went quiet. My dad cleared his throat. "We did what we thought was best." "For who?" I asked. No one answered. I stood up. They watched me like they used to, waiting for me to crumble. Instead, I walked to the wall, pulled down a jacket, the first one it ever sold. I placed it on the table. "This," I said, "paid my rent when you didn't call." I pulled another. "This fed me." Another. "This is what I built while you pretended I didn't exist." My brother scoffed. "You're being dramatic." That was the moment. The final click. "No," I said calmly. "I'm being accurate." I looked at my parents. "You didn't raise me into this. You tried to break me into silence." My mom's eyes filled with tears. But they were the wrong kind, the kind that ask for forgiveness without offering responsibility. "We just want to help now," she said. I nodded slowly. "I know," I said. "But you don't get to skip the damage and collect the benefit." My dad stood. "So that's it? You're cutting us off?" I shrugged. "You did that first. I just didn't chase you." They left angry, confused, offended, which told me everything I needed to know. That night, I slept better than I had in years, not because I won, because I chose myself without shaking. Months later, my work expanded. Online orders, collaborations, a waiting list. People didn't just buy jackets. They bought survival stitched into seams. They felt it. Sometimes people ask me if I regret not reconciling. I don't, because peace isn't letting people back in. Peace is knowing you survived without them. I still keep the old video, not as a reminder of pain, but as proof that abandonment didn't end me. It introduced me to myself. 8 years of breathing, building, patching, and surviving had finally stacked into something real. Not something that could be stolen, not something that could vanish if someone got mad, not something tied to people who'd left me in a parking lot like a forgotten backpack. No, this was mine. I remember the day I walked into the lawyer's office. Sarah came with me, just to keep me steady. I'd saved enough to feel untouchable, but even the most confident heart can shake when you're about to confront the people who tried to erase you. Mom, Dad, and my brother walked in, looking smaller than they had in my memory. Not physically, time had aged them, but their confidence, the kind that used to scare me, had shriveled a little. I'd grown too much, too fast for them to fit back into the same world they abandoned me in. My mom smiled first, that soft, practiced smile she used when she wanted something. "You look different," she said. I nodded. "So do you." That wasn't true. They looked exactly the same, which somehow made it worse. They invited themselves in, sat on chairs they didn't earn. My brother scanned the room like he was inspecting property. "This is nice," he said. "Didn't think you had it in you." I felt the old anger rise, but it didn't explode. It settled, heavy, controlled. My dad got straight to the point. "We're having some financial strain," he said, folding his hands. "Temporary." Of course. There it was. No apology, no acknowledgement, just need. My mom reached across the table and touched my hand. I pulled it back. She flinched like she'd been offended. "We're family," she said softly. "We should support each other." I laughed. It slipped out before I could stop it. Not loud, not cruel, just honest. "Do you remember the hospital?" I asked. The room went quiet. My dad cleared his throat. "We did what we thought was best." "For who?" I asked. No one answered. I stood up. They watched me like they used to, waiting for me to crumble. Instead, I walked to the wall, pulled down a jacket, the first one it ever sold. I placed it on the table. "This," I said, "paid my rent when you didn't call." I pulled another. "This fed me." Another. "This is what I built while you pretended I didn't exist." My brother scoffed. "You're being dramatic." That was the moment. The final click. "No," I said calmly. "I'm being accurate." I looked at my parents. "You didn't raise me into this. You tried to break me into silence." My mom's eyes filled with tears. But they were the wrong kind, the kind that ask for forgiveness without offering responsibility. "We just want to help now," she said. I nodded slowly. "I know," I said. "But you don't get to skip the damage and collect the benefit." My dad stood. "So that's it? You're cutting us off?" I shrugged. "You did that first. I just didn't chase you." They left angry, confused, offended, which told me everything I needed to know. That night, I slept better than I had in years, not because I won, because I chose myself without shaking. Months later, my work expanded. Online orders, collaborations, a waiting list. People didn't just buy jackets. They bought survival stitched into seams. They felt it. Sometimes people ask me if I regret not reconciling. I don't, because peace isn't letting people back in. Peace is knowing you survived without them. I still keep the old video, not as a reminder of pain, but as proof that abandonment didn't end me. It introduced me to myself. 8 years of breathing, building, patching, and surviving had finally stacked into something real. Not something that could be stolen, not something that could vanish if someone got mad, not something tied to people who'd left me in a parking lot like a forgotten backpack. No, this was mine. I remember the day I walked into the lawyer's office. Sarah came with me, just to keep me steady. I'd saved enough to feel untouchable, but even the most confident heart can shake when you're about to confront the people who tried to erase you. Mom, Dad, and my brother walked in, looking smaller than they had in my memory. Not physically, time had aged them, but their confidence, the kind that used to scare me, had shriveled a little. I'd grown too much, too fast for them to fit back into the same world they abandoned me in.
And when the people who abandoned me came crawling back, I didn't let them in unscathed. I didn't let them dictate terms. I gave them accountability and nothing else. Because the real lesson wasn't about responsibility. It was about power, about boundaries, and about knowing your worth when nobody else does. Some nights, I sit in my studio and watch the city lights blink through the window. A young woman is working on a sewing machine nearby, humming to herself, trying not to think about the people who abandoned her. And I know she'll figure it out. She'll survive. She'll create. Because that's what I learned. Sometimes you have to be the person who shows up for yourself first. And if they need you after that, they get the best version of you. Or nothing at all. No returns. Not ever. Survival isn't just about making it through the night. It's about standing up, taking your story, and building a life that no one can take away. If you've ever been abandoned, doubted, or told you were disposable, this channel is for you. Please subscribe it for more true stories like this one. Moreover, don't just survive. Thrive. Create. Own your story, because the only approval you really need is your own. No returns. Not ever.